Okay, so if you're starting a business, it's important to calculate and figure out your startup costs before starting the business. And it's important for a number of reasons. Two of the main reasons are so that you know how much it's going to cost you. And then secondly, so that you know where you're going to source that money from. Is it going to cost you $2,000 and you have all $2,000? Is it going to cost you $10,000 and you have six? Or is it going to cost you $200,000 and you have $30,000 available? Once you figure out roughly how much it's going to cost you to start the business, then you can determine if it's actually feasible to start the business and where you can get that extra money if you don't have enough to cover all the startup costs by yourself. And these startup costs could be very low. Maybe you're starting a business where you're just doing website design and you don't really need anything. You're just going to use your computer that you already have. You might register the business name and get a business license and some business cards, and in total maybe that costs you $400. Or maybe it's quite expensive on the other hand, where you're starting a restaurant and you need lots of expensive equipment and furniture and training staff and cash registers with POS systems and renovations to the space that you're leasing. So it can vary a lot, but in this video I'm just going to give a quick tutorial using a spreadsheet on how to add up your startup costs for a business. And I will leave a link in the video description below to download a copy of the template. Okay, so here we are on the template, just on a Google spreadsheet. And just for example, let's say we're going to start a clothing store. We'll call the clothing store Uptown Clothing Store, and then we have the name of the spreadsheet here, or the name of the financial statement, which is Startup Cost Schedule. And then we'll just make it for January 2025, for the month that we're planning on having most of these expenditures, just for example. Now, in terms of expenditures here, I have a list, but obviously every business is different. So if you want, you can just delete these and add the ones that are relevant to your business. Some of them are going to apply to every business though. And in terms of order of expenditure, it doesn't really matter that much. You can do whatever order you want. It could be chronological, it could be alphabetical, it could be highest cost to lowest cost. It's really up to you. The most important thing is that these are accurate, and you're doing a little bit of research to find out the cost of each expense. And if you want to, rather than just having one column here with cost, you could make this low, and then you could create another column to the right, and you could make this high and do like a high and low estimate if you want to, and then average that out. But just to keep it simple, this time I'm just going to do the one column with the estimated cost. So now with this example of the clothing store, first off, you're going to register the business. So are you just registering a trade name as a proprietor, or are you incorporating? The price is going to vary a lot depending on your jurisdiction and if you're getting professional help, or what legal structure you go with. But let's just say we are incorporating with the help of a lawyer for $1,600, and then getting a municipal business license for $100, and we are leasing a small space in a shopping mall for $1,500 a month, and they want 1 month security deposit. And for leasehold improvements, let's just say we're going to do a little bit of painting. We're going to add some lighting and some shelving, and that's going to cost, let's just say $6,000. Some initial inventory, with a clothing store, you want some clothing on the shelves there. So let's say maybe you are paying $5,000 to get a bunch of inventory in. Maybe you need, like a cash register, POS system, things like that set up. Insurance. Now with insurance, you can get an insurance policy and just pay for it all up front, or it could be more of an operating cost where you're just paying monthly. But let's say you're going to pay it all up front and $1,200 for the year. There could be some office equipment and supplies for the back office. Maybe you're getting signage, in the mall especially, you'd probably want a sign above the store. So you can kind of figure out the cost of that. Maybe for the first week of opening, you're not actually opening to the public. You're just training staff on the different inventory and POS system and things like that. Maybe you are, getting some extra training in some form. Maybe you want a little bit of furniture, for the office or for the store. So you can kind of just go over all these expenses and add and subtract different ones depending on what you need. There could be a website that you're getting. So just adding up all those costs that you are going to have to pay to get the business going. And a couple of things to note is that these aren't all necessarily sunk costs, because something like the security deposit, you should be getting that money back. but you still do need it to get the business started. And then with something like inventory, yeah, you had to pay for that, but ideally you're selling that all off at a profit. So that's money you're going to get back. And then with things like computer software, that's stuff that you can resell. Yes, you would lose money on it, but it's an asset for the business. So just because you're having to spend all this money doesn't mean you're never going to get it back or it's not worth anything. And then another thing to note is that some of these could be classified as operating costs instead of startup costs. So like with the example of insurance, if you pay for it all up front, then it's kind of a startup cost. You need it all to get going. But if you wanted, you could get, monthly payments of, $90 per month, or in this case, $100 per month as more of an operating cost. And that way you don't have to pay a bunch of money up front. So depends how you structure these things, but typically startup costs would be the cost that you need to pay up front to really get the business up and running. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. And again, I will leave a copy of the template available to be downloaded in the video description below. If you got some use out of the video, please click like and feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel here, where I currently have about 250 videos that cover business management and business startup topics.